folks, this is Bob from BBD News with Views. This week sets in motion the biggest rollout of what could be a global strategic event for India as the world watches, as India rolls out its vaccination. You know, it's going to be one of the world's largest enterprises, and I think probably something that India, I know instinctively will take the gold medal in, right? But there's an article that one must take a lot of pride in, is written by Mike Bird in the Financial Times. It says, India's vaccine colossus is a model for the world to follow. He shows that the number of vaccinations doses sold worldwide in 2015, take a guess. Johnson & Johnson, 664 million. Merck, 150 million. GlaxoSmithKline, 690 million. Sanofi, 1 billion. Serum Institute of India, 1.4 billion, folks. It says the Serum Institute work requires a reliable and large domestic supply of the vials in which the vaccines are sealed and transported, ensured by companies such as Scott Kaiser and Piramal Glass. The existence of the world's largest vaccine manufacturer helps to establish the basis for a domestic network of suppliers. But countries could take a leaf from India's book when it comes to manufacturing crucial items that might encounter massive demand surges. And this is developed countries are also finding it. I think a lot of countries will be clearly watching India. But here, my next question is, will USSR, Russia let us down? Sorry, forget USSR. That's all. That's gone. It is Russia. Will it let us down? As Rajat Pandit writes, US curbs loom, but India works to induct Russia S-400 system. Obviously, there is immediately a response and a threat of sanctions coming from the US. So what does Anurag Srivastava standard reply? India pursues independent foreign policy, Ministry of External Affairs. However, the outgoing ambassador of the United States has warned India, discomfort zones. Delhi must heed Ambassador Juster's concerns. US anxieties may find more vigorous expression under President Biden while he's talking about the democratic credentials such as the CANRC and Jammu and Kashmir. But S-400 is also going to play a role. But will Russia let us down? Just like it let us down in 1965 by negotiating the handover of the Haji Pir Pass. And that can be laid squarely at their doorstep. As also the Galwan Valley clash, because that also can be laid squarely at not only there but Sergei Lavrov's doorsteps. Why? Because he had confirmed and guaranteed India that this Chinese put together of this huge 50,000 soldiers of the PLA was not directed at India. And guess what? That didn't happen. And as we go along, please remember, it's important, as Jester writes, need to build guidelines, red lines for Indo-Pacific outgoing US envoy. Indo-Pacific becomes critical for India. Guess who is opposing it? Russia. He says, why India was important, a subtle message to India over its defense ties with Russia. Jester said, in our view, defense procurement should not be solely about selecting the lowest bidder, but also about recognizing quality and value over the entire life cycle and ensuring strategic interoperability across services and perhaps even other friendly forces. And this is what you really have to put to test, folks. And as Anita Inder Singh writes, a US-Russia-China tightrope. So India must find its way through the complex rivalry between its two friends, Russia and the US. Russia supplies military gear to more than 70% of India's armed forces. That was always been noted by Washington, as it has mulled over the intertwined problems of selling sophisticated weapons to India and strengthening its tie with New Delhi. But here, let me tell you, it may supply 70%, but let's just cut this line of supply. Substitute with a whole bunch of short-term, long-term leases while we build our own infrastructure in India. But what she says is important. On another plane, the Russian tie is a double-edged sword. Russia will not put its weight behind India in the Sino-Indian border dispute, partly because its greater interest is to challenge American global primacy with its comprehensive strategic partner China. It opposes India's support for Washington concept of the Indo-Pacific and its membership of the Quad. Generally, Russia's silence on China's hawkishness in the Indo-Pacific works against India's interest. Significantly, post-Soviet Russia, like its partner China, is also an expansionist power. Russia and China jointly produce weapons for land, aerial and naval use. They see their tie standing at the apex of history as an enduring strategic partnership. This includes trade. China buys 14% of Russia's exports, India a mere 1.7%. China supplies Russia with 22% of its import, India with 1.6%. Arms sales to India keep Russia's defense industry well oiled, but the chances of India wooing Russia by highlighting their shared interest in a multipolar world are slim. So folks, Russia is not going to stand by you no matter which way you look at it, folks. It's time to junk them. This S-400 is nothing but an albatross around our neck. Why and when will our Air Force and the people in the Ministry of Defense wake up to the challenge? Because tomorrow, what if you have a problem with Russia, with Pakistan and China? What are you going to do then? Even with Pakistan, and you're using the S-400s. What if supply parts are hung up by Russia, which they've been doing currently? Or what if further, if the system is hacked by China, and I can, as God is my witness, they already know how because they have the S-400. Folks, more after the break.
Next Press Logistics Limited provides Army driver, highly disciplined, fighting fit, duty ourselves. I love Next Press Logistics Limited.
Welcome back, folks. And as Swato Ganguly writes, with Biden in, Delhi's hopes will hinge on whether Iran nuclear deal can be revived. Iran in the balance. What is this? And he rightly says, if the nuclear deal falls through, Iran will be lost to the West and Beijing will rush to fill the vacuum, securing cheap energy supplies, expansion of its BRI, as well as acquiring a useful ally. What this does, obviously there's a huge major realignment happened. The fact that Qatar, there was a detonate between Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the Emirates is principally because they all want to be in a bargaining position with the United States because they feel that Biden is going to try and reinitiate the nuclear deal, which is actually considered a major threat by Israel and Saudi Arabia. They really can't afford to have, they really don't want that deal to go through. However, India will, it seems, as a collateral damage, end up losing out on the Chabahar port and possibly as Afghanistan, as the US moves out of Afghanistan, and even if it doesn't want to, it might just begin to get squeezed out as China and Pakistan play their dubious role, as does Iran in conjunction with Iran and Russia. So what that further does is reduces our ability to get to the Central Asian nations of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan and all that stuff, and all those countries. However, there are some political changes happening in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan where a liberal has taken over in Kyrgyzstan and Bishkek, which basically, I believe, more or less anti-China and more pro the issues of the Uyghurs. So interesting time. And India will have to reconfigure this if this were to happen, and make it's already made its plans to ally with Saudi Arabia, as you saw with Narwane's visit and Jaishankar's visit to Oman, Qatar, and Israel. We have a great strategic relationship with. However, it's something that we'll have to worry about, right? Especially since, like I said, Russia, the traitor, is working full-time in hand to what I say is to complete what is being said here by Andrew. I quoted Andrew Korbiko. He says, is Pakistan's NCPEC plus vision finally beginning to take shape? N stands for North, so running right from Central Asia, right down to Chabahar port and to Afghanistan through Pakistan, and that is the vision. And that's supposed to improve, if that were to happen, of course it improves the economic viability of Pakistan, which is currently sinking deep in the hole of debt. And so that's why, like I said, Russia is working towards that and cannot be trusted. But what is happening in the United States? Bill moved in US to remove Pakistan designation as non-NATO ally. This should have been done a lot earlier. Right? But Afghanistan, I'm not so sure how the United States plans to pull off. As it says, troubled Afghan Taliban peace talks resume amid violence and accusations, and Taliban carrying out strings of violence. Peace talks on horizon will attack, while attacks continue. It's kind of a tenuous situation, right? All stuff is not hunky-dory in Balochistan either. As we say, 11 miners from Hazara community killed in Pakistan. IS claims attack. Protesting Hazaras refuse to bury miners. And this essentially what has happened here is that now, as per reports, this demonstration against this attack has gone to many other cities in Pakistan, especially to Karachi, the other major city, folks. So this region continues to be in flux as the United States continues to be in flux, and one is hopeful that Biden and his foreign affairs team gets together and starts giving some direction. And because of what's happening in the United States and the expectation what the United States will do with the deal with Iran, there is what you call, as you've all seen, the biggest move where Qatar finally tied back in with the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. It says, towards reconciliation, suspension of hostilities by Qatar and Arab quartet could be first step in ending heightened conflicts among Gulf kingdoms. What he says is, but as the cost of the conflicts mounted and the geopolitical landscape of the region began to change, Qatar and the quartet have recognized the urgency of ending the standoff. With Joe Biden's administration determined to restore relations with Iran, the Arab quartet saw the importance of restoring a measure of Gulf unity. Qatar might be, well, anyway. So, and it says, while the dangers of instability have eased for the moment, Delhi needs to sustain the current intense levels of political engagement with the Arab Gulf, right? So it says, eyeing Gulf detonate, Saudi Arabia opens summit with calls to counter Iran threat. So it's all about Iran. Saudi FM says, this is in Khalij time, Saudi FM says full ties with Qatar is restored. Gulf nations vow unity and stability. And to help this along, and Israel, resurgence in UAE business activity posted in December. That's also critical. Saudi private sector posts robust growth. So this should help this along and further solidify this movement as Pentagon recalls aircraft carrier move in Mideast is reversal of US strategy on Iran. So this is like helps this effort. Now what's happening in the short circuit in China? What's happening? Taiwan. Taiwan issues new passport to end confusion with China. A slap on China's face. India should be worried about this and focus on Myanmar. Chinese FM visits Myanmar with aim to speed up BRI projects. Jay Shankar, I hope drew the red lines in Sri Lanka. Jay Shankar's Lanka visit likely to give impetus to ECT project. Folks, if we don't get the ECT project, you know that Sri Lanka is a lost cause. That Jay Shankar asked Lanka to fulfill hopes of Tamils. That's important because what's happening is a message to Colombo. Minister Jay Shankar reminder on the necessity of the 13th Amendment, which was much needed and timely. That's important because I think these are the red lines not being drawn. Because what's happening in domestic politics of what's happening in Sri Lanka. Jaffna varsity decisions to remove war memorial sparks tea and protests. And what is that? Jay Shankar in Lanka as India eyes nod for its big projects. And troubles for the for China continues. US eyes adding Alibaba, Tencent to ban. Now this is going to be really, really important, folks. This is going to blow the lid off financing for these tech companies and hence destroy their ambitions to go global. Jai Hind.